an architect and designer, a composer and magician. He's a genius who must hide his facial disfigurement behind a mask. In the catacombs beneath the Opera Populaire, he is known only as the Phantom of the Opera or the Opera Ghost. His one companion is his young protege, a soprano named Christine Daae, who is drawn to and mystified by, but at the same time terrified of, her angel of music. When Christine accepts a marriage proposal from her childhood sweetheart, Vicomte de Chauny, the Phantom's heart is broken. His despair quickly turns to rage, interrupting the masquerade ball with the news of his new opera. In 2 months, lots of people will be running around in masks. People pretending to be something that they're not, or maybe trying on something that in part they are or want to be. Masks are interesting things. We all wear them, you know, and not just on Halloween. We put on the brave, smiling mask when our hearts are breaking. We put on a gruff mask to keep people at a distance. We put on a wild and crazy mask to get attention or to avoid responsibility. We put on the expert mask to gain respect or to earn a living. Most of us have many masks. Mask can be a means of survival, a way of hiding, perhaps, in a world that seems hostile. Sometimes this is a positive thing. Counselors set aside or mask off their own problems while they're supporting someone else during a crisis. Sometimes masks are not so benign. The wolf in sheep's clothing is a menace to all who fail to see through the disguise. And we have all had our fill of political leaders who hide behind a filibuster or the letter of the law. Most often, however, masks are simply a part of what it means to live in a society. They keep us from overwhelming each other with our undigested lives. As we all know, "How are you?" is not always an invitation to tell the truth. Masks allow us some privacy. They hide or screen things that should not momentarily be on view. When Jesus watched some of the Pharisees in action, they reminded him of the masked actors at the Roman theaters in the town of Caesarea. And so that's what he called them, hypocritai, hypocrites, as we would say in English. The word actually means masked actor. Jesus says the Pharisees were like actors wearing their masks. They are playing a role. They are hiding as much as they are showing. They are not the real thing. Now, what they are acting out, the things they represent, are important. And Jesus is the first to acknowledge that. These religious leaders, he said, are the heirs of Moses, fulfilling that great teacher's role to interpret God to the people. Listen to them. What they are teaching is correct. But it should go more than simply mask deep. If it's just a mask, something's wrong. It's good to get that off. If we put on our faith or any other aspect of our personality, if we just wear a mask of piety or a mask of propriety or anything else, it soon becomes evident to others. People will eventually see that we are actors, portraying a valuable thing perhaps, but if at its root we are unchanged by it, then we become hypocrites who hide as much as we reveal. When the face we present to life is but a mask, it narrows our vision and stifles our breathing. It keeps others from seeing and knowing us for who we are. And it's simply a relief when we take it off. It's not that our masks are necessarily bad. They may show valuable things and fill important roles, as Jesus remarked about the Pharisees. But if we present only a mask, it is completely inadequate. It is a lie, for it does not define us in our deepest being. And it's so easy to start out just by putting on a mask to cover up a bit of momentary untidiness. But then as we get busy and as we get to liking the ways that people respond to the mask, we begin to let there be more and more distance that creeps in between the mask and the reality until we simply don't know how to put them back together again. Maybe we even lose track of the fact that we're even wearing a mask at all. The day comes when the face just looks great, but the reality behind the mask is just full of holes, and we're nothing more than a hypocrite, an actor, an emptiness behind a mask. The phantom's mask is an attempt to make his appearance more appealing and to hide the deformity of his face. By wearing a mask, he attempts to become like everyone else. But Christine is a curious woman. She wants to know what is behind the mask. And so she removes the phantom's mask without asking permission. And in so doing, the phantom cries out in rage and grief as that part of his life is exposed. We empathize. Unmasking is difficult. Paul, in his letter to the church at Thessalonica, risks unmasking. The face he presents there is what he calls bone deep. The face is bone deep. He desires to live the kind of transparency that allows people to see who he really is all the way through. And the thing is, that is what eventually happens whether we intend it or not. Sooner or later, our real character becomes apparent, mask or no mask, just as we can recognize our close friends in costume or our children in all of that hockey gear, just as Christine loves the angel of music. We recognize the character, the whole build and manner of moving, and are not fooled by the mask. Jesus was not fooled by the Pharisees, and Paul knew that the congregation in Thessalonica would sooner or later see to the core of him. I wasn't wearing any mask, he said. Rather, in a way, I became a mask for God, a face for the invisible God to present visibility to the world. Paul's life became a way of showing not only the truth of what was in Paul, but the deeper truth of what was beyond Paul, beneath and sustaining Paul. The Thessalonians saw not the masked actor evangelist, but the very light of God shining through him. We're all invited into such a transformation. Not the transformation to cover up with this mask or that mask, but to dare to remove our mask, to expose our deepest selves to the presence of God and to the needs of our neighbors. We become the face of God in the world, showing and telling by the simple nuances of our day-to-day lives what God is about in the world. We are the one story that our neighbors are guaranteed to read. Amen.